The most fundamental reason why you want to practice all of these skills is that it makes all your recipe building so much faster. Hey everybody, Andrew Zimmern. Today we're going to talk about knife skills, and by the time you finish watching this video, you're going to have a complete understanding of the many ways in which not only use a knife, sharpen a knife, keep it sharp, but most importantly, cut your food the right way. If food is cut the right way, food is going to cook the right way. It really is that simple. Knife skills allow you to speed up the cooking process. It is the practice of cooking. If you chop a carrot and an onion every day for 1 month and you do it the right way, your speed in processing while you're cooking will be trebled. You will absolutely enjoy cooking more and it's going to become a breeze. Do you need a knife block like this with 75 knives to perform every function? Maybe. I don't think so. I think you need a couple good knives, and if you're cutting a lot of bread in your house, maybe a serrated knife. But using knives like these, either a really nice small vegetable knife that also functions for me as my boner, or a chef's knife like this, they all look different. Here's a more classic European one. This is a Scandinavian one. So let's get to cutting. Life is going to be really simple when you know how to cut into batons, which are large sticks, dice, which come out of the batons, allumettes, which are thin matchsticks, micro dice that come out of those allumettes, and chiffonade, a ribbon cutting of anything, especially vegetables, leafy greens, particularly herbs and things like that. So the first thing that I want to do is I'll show you a couple techniques on this pepper. And I'm going to use my chef's knife for it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a gentle sawing motion because this is a very, very tall object. Gentle back and forth sawing motion. And do you notice how I keep my hand and fingers all away from that cutting surface? There's only two ways that people cut themselves. The first way is lazy thumb. Lazy thumb is when your thumb starts to drift out into the cutting surface. That really hurts. Everyone cuts themselves right there. The other way people cut themselves is when they're going at their food as opposed to placing their knife on their food. I see a lot of people try to go at their food like they're in a medieval jousting performance at the Renaissance Fair. Don't do that. If you just place your knife on your food, use a sawing motion or come straight down, you're going to handle that food much, much, much better. When you have a pepper like this, it does have a little rib in there. It creates an uneven surface. And you will hear over the course of this series the problem with uneven surfaces. They don't maintain contact with the heating element the same way. They have an uneven look. That doesn't mean that this is garbage. It just means you can snack on it, chop it, put it in a salad. I keep a freezer bag with all my vegetable trim and I make a vegetable soup sometimes. But now I have a nice even piece. Obviously, nature has created a rounded outside, but a nice even piece of yellow pepper. And at that point, I can lay the tip of my knife safely onto the cutting board and I can start to make batons. So at a 1/4 inch, I can make some lovely batons. Now these batons are not perfect because the ends aren't trimmed. So I can turn these, even out all the tips, and take these little pieces away. Now this kind of trim right here is delicious for certain applications. I don't make fussy food all the time, but for the purposes of this video, I want to show you really, really precise cuts. So there we have our batons. Now if I make 1/4 inch cuts along the batons, I'm going to wind up with what I consider to be a textbook dice. Notice my knife tip is not leaving the cutting board, which means I'm not stabbing at my food, so I'm not going to cut my fingers, and I'm keeping my thumb back. I don't want lazy thumb. And there's a pile of perfectly diced yellow peppers. When a recipe calls for batons or sticks of food, this is what they're talking about. When a recipe calls for diced food, that is what they are talking about. Now, let's take this eggplant here. Eggplant's a rolly object. I like you to grip that really, really hard. I'm going to take the top off. I'm going to cut the bottom off. And I'm really squeezing that eggplant so it doesn't roll around. And I'm going to cut some slices of eggplant here, roughly 1/4 inch in thickness. You may like to grill slices of eggplant like that. If I am cooking a ratatouille or a caponata, I really don't care about the rings. So I can put a flat end, a stable end, onto the cutting board. If you are just starting to work with food, cut it in half. Don't make it so tall. So I have my eggplants. I have rings for them over here. I have pieces of eggplant here that I can cut into 1/4 inch, and I'm doing this with the tip of my knife. Long slices. But you can simply do long batons like that. If you have something that's about 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch in thickness, you can cut it knife point on the board. And because I have this skin, you can almost hear the thump as I put pressure onto my knife stroke. And I have beautiful matchsticks. I can show you here how to do a micro dice or a brunoise. You simply slice them at the same width that you cut them lengthwise. So there I have a perfect little allumette of eggplant, suitable for frying, sauteing, whatever you would like. And here I have the brunoise. Celery. What a difficult thing to cut. There are hundreds of different what are called oblique cuts on food, and I can show you several of them here with this leaf of celery. We all know what this one looks like. 1/4 of an inch, maybe up to about 1/6 of an inch. All I'm doing is the same technique. I am holding my hand in that claw motion, point of the knife on the board. This is a very, very curvy little piece, but I can put my fingers in it for the first couple cuts, and I can cut some beautiful little allumettes of celery just by turning this on my board. How about cutting basil? This is often referred to as a chiffonade. I stack my leaves together. This is a cutting technique you're gonna have to practice a lot of. Knife on the board, super safe, hand back. And I am using my forefinger as my guidepost. I can move that forefinger back and forth to determine the width of my knife stroke. And I move my hand down the length of that basil, and I stop and push my food back to the same place because it is unsafe to come all the way to the edge of the board. And there is a chiffonade of basil. I think the prettier the food is cut, the more beautifully your food will taste and look. We do eat with our eyes. And the last thing I'm going to do is show you how to properly cut an onion, because it's something that everybody needs to know how to do. Don't drop it. If you don't know how to cut an onion, life's going to be hard in the kitchen. 2 pieces of the onion. This is the bloom end, where it bloomed. This is the root end. That end, the ugly end, the one with those hairs, however you remember it, that holds the onion together. So the first thing I do when I'm cutting an onion is I cut the top of it off. The next thing that I do, usually I cut them in half. I don't feel, unless I'm making onion rings, that I need to work with a whole onion. It's not as safe. It also makes peeling them an absolute charm. And that peel can come right back. And it sticks to the back of the onion, because remember, everything connects back at the root end. Do I trim this off yet? Absolutely not, because that helps to hold my onion together. 1/4 inch, every 1/4 inch. I make an incision with my knife, almost going down all the way to that root end. And when I get to the really bottom side here, I hold my knife at an angle and make a small incision, so I get a little bit of a 1/4 inch dice there. And then all I do, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. If you want to get a little fancier, you make 2 sets of incisions at 1/4 inch depths. Go across the waist here at 1/4 inch intervals and make that cut first. It's so much easier. So now I make my 1/4 inch slices. By holding my hand the right way, if a knife skips on a piece of mushy vegetable or fruit, you're not going to hurt yourself. Now these onions will have more squared off ends than the other ones because we made the second cut on those. And you can almost see on camera, if I make like piles, from the coloration, that they look a little neater. The difference is minimal. The most fundamental reason why you want to practice all of these skills is that it makes all your recipe building so much faster. If you know how to process food, you're going to enjoy it more, it's going to take less time, and you'll have more time to share the joy of cooking with your family. These are long batons. Perfect 1/4 inch dice on the yellow pepper. Batons of pepper. Alumettes, matchstick cuts of eggplant. Batons of celery. Oblique dice of onion. Conventional dice of onion. Chiffonade of basil. Oblique cut of celery. And the brunoise from the eggplant that came from our allumette. Brunoise or microdice comes from allumette. Conventional dice comes from baton. You have a sharp knife in your hand. Focus on the work, practice and get really good at it, and easy, simple cooking will be a joy in your life.